first, nothing at the airport seemed out of the ordinary. Parents hurried their children toward boarding gates. Laughter echoed through the terminal, and travelers stared down at glowing phone screens. Everything felt routine, ordinary. Everyone, that is, except Rex. Rex was a seasoned police K9, trained to notice what humans missed. In the middle of his patrol, he suddenly stopped. His nose lifted into the air, ears snapping upright, his entire body going rigid like a coiled spring. Officer Daniels felt the change instantly. "What is it, Rex?" he murmured. Rex didn't respond with a bark or a whine. He exploded into motion. Before anyone could process what was happening, the German Shepherd broke free and launched himself toward a nearby stroller. He collided with it, knocking it sharply to the side. A terrified scream cut through the terminal. The mother lunged for the handle, panic flooding her face. "Get that dog away from my baby!" she shouted. Passengers stumbled backward. People yelled. Officers rushed forward, convinced they were witnessing an attack. Fear rippled through the crowd as phones were raised to record the chaos. "What is that dog doing?" one officer whispered. Moments later, they would all understand, and the airport would never feel the same again. Stay with us, because this story takes a shocking turn. And before we continue, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'd also love to know, where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and let's see how far this story reaches. Earlier that day, the terminal had been alive with its usual noise. Rolling suitcases, boarding announcements, crying toddlers. Officer Daniels walked calmly beside Rex, the K9 unit's most dependable German Shepherd. Rex moved with quiet confidence, scanning the crowd the way he had hundreds of times before. Then everything shifted. Rex halted mid-step, his ears locked forward, his tail stiffened. Every muscle in his body tensed like steel cables pulled tight. Daniels felt the leash snap taut in his grip. "Rex," he said again. That was all the warning he got. Rex surged forward with sudden, explosive force, nearly pulling Daniels off his feet as he charged toward a young woman pushing a stroller. Gasps erupted around them. People stumbled out of the way as Rex leapt, landing with his front paws inside the stroller and tipping it sideways. The mother screamed, clutching the handle. "You're hurting my baby!" Officers sprinted toward them. A crowd formed instantly. Daniel struggled to pull Rex back, but the dog refused to budge. Because Rex wasn't attacking. He was searching. The German Shepherd shoved his nose beneath the baby's blanket, growling low. Not at the sleeping infant, but at something hidden near her tiny feet. Something that didn't belong. Something dangerous. Rex growled louder, pushing deeper beneath the blanket. The mother, shaking uncontrollably, yanked the stroller back. "Stop it!" she cried, tears streaming down her face. But Rex couldn't stop. His instincts were screaming. Daniels dropped to one knee beside him. "Ma'am, please step back," he said firmly. "Something is wrong." As officers carefully lifted the stroller upright, the blanket shifted, and a small metallic object rolled onto the floor. Clink. The sound echoed louder than any scream. Everyone froze. The object was cylindrical, wrapped tightly in duct tape. A tiny red light blinked steadily. Beep, beep, beep. "Oh my God! Back up!" an officer shouted, grabbing the mother and pulling her away. Sirens wailed overhead. "Terminal C, evacuate immediately." Panic erupted. Travelers ran. Security flooded the area. The mother collapsed into sobs, clutching her baby, finally realizing the horror she had unknowingly pushed through the airport. Rex didn't retreat. He planted himself between the blinking device and the child. Teeth bared, body vibrating with tension. Daniels tugged on the leash. "Rex, come." Rex refused. His eyes never left the device. Then the beeping accelerated, faster, louder. Daniels felt his blood turn cold. This wasn't over. Officers rushed the mother into a secured section of the terminal as bomb technicians closed in on the device. She trembled violently, holding her baby as he began to cry. "I didn't do anything," she pleaded. "I don't even know what that thing is." Daniels knelt in front of her, calm but urgent. "We're not blaming you, ma'am, but tell me, did anyone else touch your stroller?" "No," she sobbed. "I never let it out of my sight." At that moment, Officer Ramirez hurried over, holding a tablet. "We checked the security footage," he said, tapping the screen. The video showed a man in a gray hoodie walking past the stroller just minutes earlier while the woman bent down to tie her shoe. In one smooth motion, he slipped something under the blanket and vanished into the crowd. The mother's face drained of color. He put it there. I never even saw him." Before Daniels could reply, Rex suddenly snapped his head toward the terminal entrance, a deep growl rumbling from his chest. "Daniels," Ramirez said slowly, eyes widening. "That device wasn't meant to go off here." Rex wasn't watching the bomb anymore. He was tracking the man who planted it. The real threat was still inside the airport. Rex's growl transformed into sharp, urgent barks as his body turned toward the crowded security checkpoint. "He's got the scent," Daniels said instantly. "Move." Rex tore through the terminal, weaving between fleeing passengers as officers chased behind him. People jumped aside as the German Shepherd followed an invisible trail only he could detect. "Stop that dog," a guard shouted. "Let him through," Daniels yelled back. Rex skidded across the polished floor, nose low, tail rigid. He passed Gate 12, raced beyond baggage claim, then stopped abruptly. Across the hall, a man in a gray hoodie, the same one from the footage, was rushing toward an emergency exit, clutching a black duffel bag to his chest. "There!" Ramirez shouted. The suspect looked back, eyes wide with terror, and bolted. He slammed into the exit door, struggling to force it open. "Police! Don't move!" He didn't listen. The bag slipped from his hands, and something heavy clattered inside. Daniels swore under his breath. "He's got another device." Rex was already charging. Alarms screamed as the suspect disappeared into a restricted maintenance corridor. Red lights flashed overhead. Rex sprinted after him, Daniels and several officers right behind. "Lock down Terminal C," the sergeant barked into his radio. Metal gates slammed shut throughout the terminal. The corridor twisted sharply. Pipes rattled overhead. The suspect shoved crates into Rex's path, but the dog vaulted over them effortlessly. Daniels followed, lungs burning. The man reached a dead end, an exterior service hatch. His hands shook as he fumbled with the lock. Rex's snarl thundered through the hallway. The suspect turned just as Rex launched. They slammed into the floor. The man kicked wildly, but Rex clamped onto his sleeve and refused to release. Officers piled on, restraining the screaming suspect. "Check the bag," Daniels shouted. Ramirez unzipped it carefully. Inside were 3 more devices, wired, timed, ready. Silence fell. "This was coordinated," Ramirez whispered, and Rex stopped it. Daniels looked down at his dog, panting heavily but still alert. "You just saved hundreds of lives, buddy." When the devices were secured and the suspect was led away in handcuffs, applause erupted. Not from passengers who understood every detail, but from officers who realized how close they'd come to catastrophe. Rex stood tall, chest rising and falling, eyes still scanning the terminal as if guarding everyone inside it. The young mother approached, baby in her arms. Tears streamed down her face as she knelt beside Rex. "I thought he was attacking us," she whispered, "but he was saving my child." Rex gently nudged the baby's foot with his nose, earning a small giggle. Daniels smiled, finally releasing the tension from his shoulders. Soon after, the airport chief stepped forward. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "today this K9 prevented a disaster. His instincts protected hundreds of lives." Applause grew into cheers. Cameras flashed. Some people cried. Others stared in awe at the dog who never hesitated. That evening, Rex received a special citation for bravery. Daniels placed the medal around his neck as officers stood in salute. Rex didn't bask in the attention. He simply wagged his tail, ready for the next life he might save.